smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Hour number 3 officially underway right here on the early line, Sirius XM Channel 159 Sports Grid Network. Joe Ranieri, Donnie writes, we always bring you the hottest topics, which does include college basketball. Center stage this weekend. The Final Four for the women's tournament starts up Friday. The Final Four for the men's tournament goes on Saturday. Championship game for the women on Sunday. Championship game for the men on Monday night. So we asked the people on our Sports Grid Fade the Public poll who will win the women's NCAA tournament. 4 options given: South Carolina, Iowa, UConn, and NC State. For myself, I took Iowa with 38% of the vote. Joe went 7-1 price here on UConn with 14% of the vote. Should be a great weekend overall, but do you feel that the public got it right? Because we always love favorites. We always love dynasties, and South Carolina can turn into one of those dynasties as close to 42% of the public here voted on South Carolina, Joe, as they believe they will win the national championship.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, we're talking about, household names with Caitlin Clark and Paige Beckers at UConn and Iowa. And we've got a $2 favorite in South Carolina, which nobody is talking about. So kudos to the public for saying, why are we forgetting about this team that's going to have revenge on their mind no matter what? Because they were, I believe, Donnie, the big favorite last year as well, and it didn't work out well for them. So a lot of the same women on that team are going to be out for vengeance, but they got to get past North Carolina State first. And as we have seen, North Carolina State in both the men and women's bracket, big problem for some teams here.
It should be fun to watch you play as we bring in the radio audience. You're watching and listening live to the early line on a Wednesday morning edition. Joe Ranieri, Donnie Rightside, Sirius XM Channel 159, and all of our radio affiliates are now into the fold, talking about who will win the NCAA tournament. Also keep in mind, interesting things. You take a look at the basketball capitals of the world, certainly up in Storrs, Connecticut. UConn, the men's, have made the Final Four. The women have made the Final Four. And the same thing with NC State in the ACC, both in Raleigh, North Carolina, celebrating down there with the women and also the men. We'll see if they can get there. It'd be crazy if those schools each claimed the national championships in the same year. Would be something wild, certainly, to watch that play out. But there's the poll to be up there, certainly, throughout the rest of the day. We'll see if South Carolina at a minus 200 price can be the lead dog at close to 42% and stay there throughout the voting process. All right, let's get to some other hot topics across the board. And we sort of brought this up today. The Kansas City Chiefs. No, we're not talking about Patrick Mahomes or Rashee Rice or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's actually the case where it's up for voting. And this is real. This is quite random. It's the Chiefs basically to get a new stadium at Arrowhead, which means they would completely renovate the building, and or Kauffman Stadium going away and moving into the downtown district there for a new ballpark themselves. And so many times they ask the question on a public ballot, will you guys, the taxpayers, pay for billionaires to get a brand new stadium, which they will reap the profits and not share it back with the public? Now, granted, most of the time it works out in the favor for the stadiums because teams like the Philadelphia Eagles and the Miami Dolphins, like the town doesn't want them to leave town. It's better off for them to be there. You can get some tax breaks, and I get it. But I never understand the premise of, hey, guys, we make so much money right now. How about you fork over a place that we're going to own, but we're going to reap the benefits of the public not being in it? It would be almost the equivalent, Joe, in your town. Hey, McDonald's is looking to open up there on the corner of 5th and Smith Avenue, and you go, oh, that's awesome. But then McDonald's goes like, Joe, your taxes just individually for you, for the town, it's going to go up $250 this year to help us build this McDonald's, which we'll make the money. You'll come here and eat, but you're not going to share in any profit sharing. I still find it wild that billionaires can milk the system and basically get their stadiums paid for.
Yeah, I think the only team that doesn't have that structure is Green Bay, where I think they have shareholders, right? Because pretty much the entire town owns the team there. It's kind of crazy like that, but and we see it all the time. We saw it down here in Miami, Donnie, when it came time for the Marlins to get a new stadium here. And Jeffrey Lurie, fantastic job, got it done, got the people to fork the money over. Then he sold the team, pocketed the money, and left. So yeah, we see it time and time again, and yet they always dangle that carrot. And let's not forget, the NFL also contributes money towards teams getting new stadiums. So the outlay cost is it's not out of the question for owners to get this. They're already getting benefits from the league and everybody else. So if the people beginning to say no, if that's a trend, I'm all for it, because these billionaires can certainly afford it. The NFL can afford it, and it should not have to go to the taxpayers at all. But again, to each their own, because some cities continue to fork over the money to allow these billionaire owners to get it done.
It's wild because you take a look at the sports landscape, right? There's some cash poor teams and some very rich teams out there. We always take a look at like the Raider franchise, which started under Al Davis. Now Mark Davis is the owner. It's basically like now granted, they make so much money that they're able to buy other things, but coming into it was like Al Davis, that was his business, was the Oakland Raiders. You take a look at some other enterprises where owners come and say, well, I'm just going to buy this as a novelty item. Like, let's just say an Arthur Blank for the Atlanta Falcons. Well, I own Home Depot. I just want this on the side here. And yes, I'll make money, but it's really my passion at this point. Take a look at, Robert Kraft and the whole Kraft family. They have a lot of other entities that they're involved in. But when you say to yourself, let's just say Clark Hunt, who the franchise is worth $5-6 billion. His father owned it here. It's not as if, the owners currently now had to pay $6 billion for the franchise. They got it inherited there where they have to pay anything for it. Like, oh, we can't sustain here. And then there's guys like Stan Kroenke who are in Los Angeles. Like, you know what? I want to get back into that LA market. I think that's going to be feasible for me. And California goes, cool, you can come to LA. We're not giving you a dime. And Kroenke goes like, I don't care. I'll build it myself, pay for it myself. I'll own it myself. And I don't think he's hurting for the dollars at this point. But it's amazing where teams like the Oakland Athletics with billionaire owners go like, you know what? We can't afford to pay for our own stadium in Oakland, but you move to Vegas, you'll get it paid for. I see why they hold those cities hostages, because the city of Kansas City doesn't want to lose the Royals and the Chiefs. I'm pretty sure they'll negotiate out of it. The same way the Chicago Bears, right? We're trying to say, you know what? We're going to buy over in Arlington outside the city because we're going to get better tax breaks. And the city of Chicago drew a hard line, but now it looks like they're actually going to stay in the city limits here because there are benefits to the government and also the tax wages that come in and all the pay and the taxes you can choose. But I always it's wild to think where, you try to equate it into your own lifestyle. Where, Joe, if the Miami-Dade County came and he goes, you know what, Joe, you can't leave here. We'll actually pay 3/4 of your home's price to build you a new property. You just pay 25%. Thank you for staying.
Yep. Yeah. And listen, look, it happened to St. Louis, didn't it, with Kroenke? Yeah. Yes. He basically said, you know what, see you later. I'm out of here. Picked up the team and took off and, built a thing out in Southern Cal. So, and then all of a sudden the city's like, what happened to our team? But you know what? I think St. Louis is doing just fine here without the Rams. So it won't be the worst thing for a city to lose a team.
Shout out Kansas City Chiefs turning into the St. Louis Chiefs. Can we make that happen here? Oh, the anarchy that would assist there. And probably St. Louis is in the market for another football team. My goodness here. Just the way it is. Major League Baseball on deck with our Major League Baseball insider, Craig Mish, up next.
So I'm not sure Alabama is the team to knock them off from this second consecutive national championship chase. But what will be the key for the Crimson Tide if they can even cover a number?
That wing ball screen action, how you defend that is going to be a problem because of Donovan Clingan. It forces you to change so much what you do defensively if he's able to score inside.
Only on SportsGrid.
Talk all you want about how fat he is. No one can guard him. No one can stop him. He's a violent offender. He does whatever he wants in the low block and at the 10. He just does whatever he wants and scores at will, ad nauseum.
They're the Mike Tyson of college basketball. At some point, they're going to throw a haymaker. And when it connects, Pharrell, you're not getting up.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell, coast to coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage Late
sort
Night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Hour number 3 of the early line. We always love to talk Major League Baseball. Down your right side, Joe Ranieri, because when we get a chance to talk to Craig Mish, our resident MLB insider right here on the SportsGrid Network, we always have a great time. A few days into the season, Craig, are we worn down already from baseball? Are we energized? What's the vibes in the room here for you?
No, I mean, look, the games are exciting. There's a lot of teams playing well. There are some that are not. We're sort of getting our feet under us a little bit here. I got my, fantasy baseball team going here. Kind of like what I'm seeing thus far, feeling good about that. And, other than the team that's in the closest proximity to me, everything else is going great.
And let's talk about the NL East right now, because one of those teams that wasn't going so great, including their biggest superstar, not going so great here in Bryce Harper, breaks out in the big way last night. 3 home runs, including a grand slam, 6 RBIs. The Phillies with a runaway game, 9-4 over the Cincinnati Reds. It was freezing cold. It was not hitting weather last night in Philadelphia, Craig, but certainly for one guy in Bryce Harper, it was.
Yeah, and the thing I love talking about, Donnie, is that in this day and age in professional sports, it's always fun to kind of take a look at the players that you still have a chance to see in person or even on TV or streaming, however you want to say it, that are future Hall of Famers, like you can guarantee. And so Mike Trout is playing in South Florida right now. And guys, no matter what happens with the rest of Trout's career, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I think that it's really fun to talk about Bryce Harper in that same category as well, because there's just so few living legends anymore. And make no mistake about it, people right now watching say, what are you talking about? Harper is a living legend. This kid came up so young with incredible expectations. Was it LeBron James type expectations? I don't know. Maybe that's a bit much. But as far as baseball is concerned, I think he was right there. He's delivered on every expectation there. One guy can't win the World Series, but Harper's getting closer and closer to getting there. And he's just a fun player to watch. And for people what I love, Donnie, is at the games, and I've seen a lot of games, whether it's in person or on TV, people yell overrated. You know how the fans yell overrated at some player? I mean, how can you possibly yell overrated at this guy? The guy delivers every time.
It's kind of crazy. There's no shortage of possible future Hall of Famers on the Dodgers either. Who are winning bullpen games, Mish. They're winning bullpen games now, going up against Webb and the Giants yesterday, and they get it done. I mean, give them credit. Give Yarbrough credit. Give the middle relief credit. And Mookie Betts is absolutely on fire. But I guess we shouldn't be surprised by any of this.
No, I think the only thing, Joe, was to take a look at the Dodgers at the beginning of the season and the National League MVP odds and, stare at them and say, okay, is it going to be Ohtani? Is it going to be Freddie Freeman? Is it going to be Mookie Betts? I can't take any of these guys because they'll cancel each other out. I mean, that's nonsense. Whoever has the best season wins the MVP. Mookie Betts is the favorite right now, as he should be. It's only 1 week, but my gosh, is this guy locked in? And honestly, maybe it is time for a new MVP there. But again, we're still very early on the season to sort of make these predictions. I don't think there's ever a really good time to take the favorite for the MVP in April. It's probably better to look a little bit deeper into the odds and take a chance. But he's been the best player in baseball as we approach 1 week of the baseball season complete.
5 home runs already for Mookie Betts. That's a leadoff hitter, people, that also sometimes we talk about Major League Baseball like, hey, maybe he's got a lot of things on his mind. He's moving the shortstop. It might affect him at the plate. Absolutely the exact opposite. He's actually torching the baseball right now, which is impressive. By the way, Shohei Ohtani bats right behind him, struggling a little bit to start the season, so at an 11-1 price here in the MVP markets. But if we take a look at today's slate, I love this. This is what we love about Major League Baseball. We don't have to wait every single day till 7:05 with a lot of games at night into the evening. On getaway days here, a lot of afternoon baseball, and we have that today. One puzzling one last night for me, Craig, was the Atlanta Braves not being able to hit in Chicago last night. It was colder temperatures. Ozuna actually had 2 home runs, the only 2 runs for the Atlanta Braves. They'll tee it up to get, and you ready for this? A minus 335 price on Strider as the favorite in this game with the Atlanta Braves going up against Nastrini, and a total of 8. Minus 335, Craig. Solid? What do you think?
You don't see these kind of favorites in April often, but what we have learned through the years, and I think, guys, the way that this has changed, maybe I am insane here, and you guys will tell me that I'm wrong, because sports betting has been around forever with baseball, right, guys? Like, whether or not we want to acknowledge it, it was being done illegally for years and years and years outside of Las Vegas and the Bahamas and everywhere else. You know what I think, guys? I think the fact that so many people are now legally betting on FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, and everywhere else, like our buddy George Kurtz, who never met a parlay he didn't like. I think they're taking all of these odds and just making them so formidable to bet on these teams, minus 330, because everyone is taking these 4 or 5 team parlays for $5 on FanDuel. How can you make it minus 270? Because someone's just going to take that minus 330, add a minus 270, add a minus 400. And I think that that's why these odds are changing, guys. I don't think you can have these short favorites anymore with these dominant teams, because it's just too easy for the player online to parlay them all up together and potentially get some wins. Now, that being said, it's April. Anything can happen. But that's my opinion of this, Donnie. I mean, look, I've been following this a long time. Minus 330s in April? Almost never.
It's bonkers is what it is. I mean, we're already pricing teams, right? Like they're in the World Series. And that's basically it. Like, they've already won the National League. I mean, that's kind of what we're getting here. And Atlanta and the White Sox here, it's not exactly, they've had a couple of clunkers here. I'm still a little bit worried about Atlanta's pitching staff, but the White Sox, along with, a couple other teams, Craig, are you shocked with how the good teams are good, but the bad teams are just really, really bad? Or does it all even out in the end anyway?
No, Joe, I think in the end, the A's are going to lose 100. I think the Rockies are probably going to lose 100. I think the White Sox, are probably going to lose 100. I came on this show. I think the Angels, regardless of what's going on in Miami this week, I think they're one of the worst teams in baseball. I think they're last in hitting and last in pitching and last in everything, are the Angels right now, even though they're running into a Miami team that's not playing well. The Mets and the Marlins, those teams are going to win games. They both may have rough seasons. I don't know the end, but every team wins 50, every team loses 50, and it's what you do in the rest of the games. Miami is going to play better. I don't know when it's going to happen, but they're not going to be this bad. I don't think Miami's going to lose 100. I don't think the Mets are going to lose 100. But Joe, you asked about, are the bad teams this bad? I think it's fair to say that the White Sox are. The A's are. I think the Rockies probably are too. And then we are going to get some surprises there. Look, if the Mets lose 95 games, they do. It's baseball. It happens. Right now, I wouldn't say that. But at the end of the year, anything goes. It's baseball.
By the way, we do get surprises like the weather forecast in Chicago today. If you are laying a minus 335 price on the favorite, oh, yeah, by the way, it's supposed to snow today. So good luck with Strider on the mound in the snow, laying that big of a price. But talking about surprises, how about those Pittsburgh Pirates here? A perfect 5-0 on the season and a heavy favorite today against the Washington Nationals at a minus 156 price. Keller and Williams, how about the Buccos here, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, Mitch Keller is pitching great. The kid tomorrow, or whenever the Pirates play next, I don't know if they play tomorrow, but this kid, Jared Jones, guys, I mean, this guy is also another one you got to keep an eye on with the strikeout props and everything else. I really like where the Pirates rotation is headed, especially if they call up Skeens and add him to the rotation too. But again, it's an early part of the season. I don't think the Pirates are going to win 25 games in a row at some point. I would guess that they will lose. But, you know, it's one of those days today where the weather, as you said, Donnie, is not the best. Probably a stay away, I think, in that one for me.
Yeah, it's always tough betting in the month of April here, and certainly you're taking a look at these weather conditions that are going to force delays and we're starting pitchers ending early, if not even getting the game in. It looks like we have close to 10 games here that are going to start before 4:10 p.m. Eastern, so a great afternoon Major League Baseball card to sit back and watch, and certainly a night slate on deck here. That's Craig Mish, and at the SportsGrid Network, he's known for one thing, being an MLB insider and also the host of Newswire coming up shortly, so make sure you check Craig out. We'll have him throughout Major League Baseball season right here on the early line. We got more things to get to, people, so don't go anywhere. Another Wednesday morning edition of the early line, and we'll be right back.
So I'm not sure Alabama is the team to knock them off from this second consecutive national championship chase. But what will be the key for the Crimson Tide if they can even cover a number?
That wing ball screen action, how you defend that is going to be a problem because of Donovan Clingan, it forces you to change so much what you do defensively if he's able to score inside.
Only on SportsGrid.
Talk all you want about how fat he is. No one can guard him. No one can stop him. He's a violent offender. He does whatever he wants in the low block and at the 10. He just does whatever he wants and scores at will, ad nauseum.
They're the Mike Tyson of college basketball. At some point, they're going to throw a haymaker. And when it connects, Pharrell, you're not getting up.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort of
Night.
has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Big card, Major League Baseball today. Gotta love it, man. Day games, fantastic stuff. Get you through your workday and also a good night slate as well. So to help you get through this day's action in Major League Baseball, it's Donnie right side here along with Joe Ranieri. This is what we do, people, to set the table so you know that there's a game at 1:05, multiple games starting before 2 o'clock and 4:10 Eastern here. So while you're at work, maybe able to win some money before you even hit dinner time. Let's take a look at one of those games a little bit later on tonight. 8:10 p.m. start, 9:19, 9:20 on the rotation. That's Toronto and Houston. It's Bassett and Javier on the mound. A favorite here, which opened up overnight as a -148 favorite towards the Houston Astros. Yeah, they're still the favorite, but right now, currently, that number has dropped to a -144 price and a total that's listed at 9. The Astros have not opened up the season as they had wanted to, being at home, dropping their first games against the New York Yankees, now struggling here against the Toronto Blue Jays, which included a game where the pitching was sensational right up until Josh Hader let loose a 2-run home run late in that ball game to lift up Toronto. We're looking for a bounce-back effort today for Houston, or is it going to be Bassett pulling off the upset for those Blue Jays here?
I can't trust Bassett at this point, unfortunately. On the road, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves there. I don't mind backing Christian Javier, who looked pretty decent his last time out. I think Bo Bichette being banged up at this point is still a little bit of a problem for that lineup there with Toronto. Kind of a getaway game here in this spot. You had a no-hitter, a lot of emotions too, right? You had a no-hitter. You have your ace on the mound in a safe spot in a low-scoring game that you end up losing. Now you got to come back here and get the rubber match going. I just think Houston early, though, is where I would look at it. Obviously want nothing to do with the bullpen there of Houston at this point, but I do think that maybe Houston will go into the 6th inning with a lead in this game.
Yeah, exactly. Be able to hold on, and maybe Hader gets the night off after blowing the game last night, but certainly something to keep an eye on. That total listed at 9. The one thing we got to love about Houston this time of year is it's a dome. So if it's open, it means it's nice weather. If it's closed, we're not worried about any rain entering into the forecast as we are like here on the East Coast. But let's flip it over to a 1 o'clock game down in Florida. It's Texas and Tampa Bay. Eovaldi versus Savali. This line opened up overnight at the FanDuel Sportsbook as a favorite towards Tampa Bay at a -126 price. That number is still currently right now a favorite for Tampa Bay, but slightly less at a -120 price and a total that's listed at 8. Rubber match here between Texas and Tampa Bay in the Trop. Do we go over? Do we go under? Or maybe a side that you're looking forward to here today, Joe?
Well, it's Savali wasn't terrible there his first go out, and that was a huge effort by Zach Eflin yesterday, which Tampa needed in order to be able to get one back there, because that series was looking extremely one-sided here. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I still think it's the Trop. It's an under park. It's an early game. I have no problem, once again, continuing to look towards unders with this spot in these teams, and especially these two pitchers. Savali being a ground ball pitcher here, and that's usually how it works in this ballpark. So that's how I'd look under in this one once again here in another early getaway situation.
Yeah, -120. You're basically looking at those two ball clubs here as a coin flip. Winner is going to take that series. Also, take a look at the Yankees and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Rodon, the lefty, will be on the mound today, going up against Merrill Kelly. That's a 3:40 afternoon start East Coast time. And the favorite here overnight is the New York Yankees. Slight favorite at -116 at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Still currently sitting right now at a 116 price, so not a lot of movement here. But the total, which opened up overnight as a 9, that now sits at 8.5 here. Yesterday, we saw the bats come alive for the Arizona Diamondbacks and a great pitching performance out of Zach Gallen. No runs yesterday here for the Yankees. Does that change today? And will you be able to trust Rodon for the 5-1 Yankees, or is it going to be a win for the Arizona Diamondbacks?
I mean, this is a tough spot here, man. Trusting Rodon, I define trust. Is trust the way where, like, I know he's going to go out there and he's going to give us 5 or 6 solid innings, save the bullpen, and keep the Yankees? No, I don't have that trust. He coming off one of the absolute terrible 2023 campaigns that we have seen. He's hurt. He's not hurt. They say he's as healthy as he's been in a while. It wasn't great the first time up, but it kind of hard. If I can't get the 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 hitters of the Yankees to hit higher than $1.50, Donnie. I can't trust them on the road against a team that is playing really well and guys that are putting the ball into play. The style of the game, too, for Arizona is interesting, right? They'll bunch you over. They'll play small ball. They'll steal a base. I think this is a nightmare matchup for the Yankees, unfortunately. So I would only look at Arizona, and I'd look at them early in the first 5.
Yeah, what's interesting about the New York Yankees, too, is sometimes you can say, like, the hitting is a little bit behind the pitchers to open the season because they're just getting a look at the aces throwing full gas at them for the first 5 to 6 innings. But also you might take a look at here and say, well, Stanton and Judge, slow starts. Well, they're batting at 38-degree temperatures. The wind's blowing in. It's just not comfortable. They opened in Houston. That's a dome. They're now in Arizona. It's a dome. There's no excuses at this point ever saying, like, hey, we just played, from Florida for a couple months here in 80-degree temperatures. Now we're playing in 30 degrees, and we just can't get those bats to stay alive. We'll see if they do come alive today after a shutout yesterday. Take a look at the Philadelphia Phillies and the Cincinnati Reds. We've talked about it ad nauseum this morning of how good Bryce Harper was last night. 3 home runs and a grand slam. The Phillies pick up a victory and a much-needed victory. They're going to take on the Reds once again today in the rubber match in Philadelphia, a 4:05 start. Montez versus Wheeler, which, yes, on paper is a big mismatch. Minus 180 price overnight at the FanDuel Sportsbook, now up to a minus 196 and a total of 7.5. But me being close to the ballpark here, it's raining today. In the forecast for the game, not rain, Joe, heavy rain. 15-mile-an-hour winds blowing in with 50-degree temperatures. I don't think this game is going to be played today. And if it is, I don't know how smart the Phillies would be to say, hey, Zach Wheeler, get out there in the rain, and if we get a delay, we'll use you for 1 inning and burn you. We'll see how this one plays out, but I have my druthers against a 4:05 start with this game starting at least on time with that rain in the forecast. But the Phillies should be able to win if it does play. But again, I'm not paying a close to 2-1 price in a rainy forecast game.
No. And the only way I would look to would be towards the total in this spot, right? I mean, look towards it was 8, now it's 7.5 here. I would look towards an under here. If it wasn't, take away the 3 home runs last night, Donnie, we're looking at an under anyway. And these conditions with the wind blowing in, that's the only way I would look. Keep it a lower scoring game for sure at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, Wheeler outdueled Strider on opening day in Philadelphia. Didn't get the win because the bullpen blew that one up. So expecting another dominant performance out of Zach Wheeler, certainly no different. Expecting a dominant performance out of Strider, possibly so. But at that price point here, minus 335 taking on the Chicago White Sox today is crazy to look at here. A total that's listed at 8. And as I look at the forecast, you're going to like this one. At the start of the game, 37-degree temperatures. That's the feel of it, what it is. Throwing the wind at 13 miles an hour. So we're now down into the 20s and into the high teens. Snow is in the forecast along with drizzle, which means it's going to be an absolute mess. So I ask you this, Joe Ranieri, if you are going to take a dog, would the Chicago White Sox be a viable dog saying, like, you're going to make Strider pitch in this environment, and maybe the field is so junked up that it doesn't make a difference of how much your favorite you are, because we saw it last night. The Braves were red hot rolling into town. They still lost a game yesterday against Crochet, who's not a great pitcher, but still a young guy trying to make his way around. Nastrini, good luck on what you're going to get from him today, but the one thing I do know is you're paying a minus 335 in snowy, windy conditions that possibly could have some rain as well. Not for me.
Yeah, no, it's not been great. I mean, although they did get out to a 9-0 in the first game win, Atlanta held, Sox couldn't hit anything. So again, another low scoring game yesterday in the conditions. Now you got the ace on the mound with Strider, and Kopech had to throw, I believe, a whole lot more innings than he should have been able to for the save last night. So the bullpen's going to be iffy. I'm splitting this game in half again, especially in these bad weather games. I'm going to look towards a first 5 under with these two teams here. And once you get past the 5th inning, if in fact it's still a close game, it's anything is possible, I think, late against this White Sox bullpen. So I would look to go early and under in this one.
Talking about late, the nightcap tonight is between the San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers. 9:09, 9:10 on the rotation. A 10-10 start out there on the West Coast. The total that opened up overnight at 7.5 actually moves higher now to 8. If we look at the side, it's a heavy favorite for the Dodgers. If you thought you got them cheap last night and they picked up a victory at about a 150 price, they opened at minus 245. That's been bet down to minus 225, but it's Glasnow versus Harrison. Harrison, the lefty on the mound. Glasnow's looked very good in a Dodgers uniform early in this season, Joe.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, too, because the only two unders the Dodgers have been a part of this year have been when Tyler Glasnow is pitching, which is interesting, right? I do think that the over is not a bad way to look here. However, because I do think the bats will come alive here for the Giants in this one. We already know that the Dodgers are going to be able to score some runs here. They're not going to have an issue here, I think, at all. Scoring at least 5 or 6, so maybe a Dodgers team total over. But I do think the over 8 is not a bad look here, as the bullpens will get involved and a little shaking on both sides.
Keller Williams on the mound today, not the real estate brokerage, but the actual pitchers between Pittsburgh and Washington today at minus 156. My question for you is not necessarily a handicap here, but do we see 6 wins for the Pirates with the best record in baseball when it's all said and done today?
Not until next month. I don't think they'll win a game until next month. But I'd look to back them here, though.
The Pirates riding high there. They used to tell you, hey, don't worry about the team on the field. Just come out to the stadium. It's beautiful. Now they're winning games here. The NBA is on deck right now. Let's talk a little NBA action.
So I'm not sure Alabama is the team to knock them off from this second consecutive national championship chase. But what will be the key for the Crimson Tide if they can even cover a number?
That wing ball screen action, how you defend that is going to be a problem because Donovan Clingan forces you to change so much what you do defensively if he's able to score inside.
Only on SportsGrid.
Talk all you want about how fat he is. No one can guard him. No one can stop him. He's a violent offender. He does whatever he wants in the low block and at the 10. He just does whatever he wants and scores at will, ad nauseum.
They're the Mike Tyson of college basketball. At some point, they're going to throw a haymaker. And when it connects, Pharrell, you're not getting up.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from 3 on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live. Prime time.
We got not 1, but 2 coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort
Night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We do it all here on the early line. It's what we do, bring you that information you need to try to turn a profit a little bit later in tonight. So we use words of caution with the NBA. We just broke down a Major League Baseball card and said, you know what? We pretty much know who's going to be in that starting lineup. We know who the pitcher's going to be. We're not going to get any fast ones pulled on us later in the day. And that's why we take a look at OKC and the Boston Celtics, who yesterday, if you were following Oklahoma City and the Philadelphia 76ers, and that roller coaster throughout the afternoon of he's playing, he's not playing. This guy's playing. Oh, he's playing? No, he's not playing. But the other guy is playing at this point. Guys with the same names sitting out, guys with the same names playing in basketball games. You're going to get that again tonight because OKC, Jalen Williams, are you going to play? Jalen Williams, are you going to play? There's two Jalen Williams there. Let's see if they both play in the game tonight. But having said that, OKC, heavy underdog tonight, taking on those Boston Celtics, Joe. A 9-point favorite for Boston and a total of 231.5. Question, Boston Celtics rested and are at home. OKC on the road lost to the Philadelphia 76ers, but weren't full gas. Is SGA going to play tonight? I need you to put on your crystal ball here and say, you know what? Who's playing tonight and who you taking?
Yeah, I mean, Jaylen Brown, questionable here for the Celtics, but that is about it here. I mean, we are looking right now at still nines. It was 8.5 last night, so it is starting to get a little bit of love in the marketplace. The total's not moving, mostly because I don't think we have any idea what's going on here with SGA. I would imagine he was sitting last night in order to play in this one. But it was so late by the time that one came in here. Maybe they're just going, yeah, we're all right. He can sit with this one, too. Why go in and make him play on the road against a physical Celtics team? So this could very well be a situation in which they'll have one hand tied behind their back again, OKC. And even if Jaylen Brown does go, I find this hard to believe that we're not getting up and over this 231 as a total here. I do think he goes. I think Jaylen Brown goes, and I think we're going to have some fun in this one from a scoring perspective. So I would look at the over.
By the way, if we're betting this game, right, and sometimes you'd like to take a look at what's down the line. We've already heard the Boston Celtics start to talk about things like, Joe, you know what? We're going to win the Eastern Conference. Should we rest players that are banged up and injured, a la Jaylen Brown at this point, or do we just go full go and try to keep that, razor sharp mentality heading into the playoffs? The reason I bring it up tonight is you're facing a team in Oklahoma City who lost yesterday to the Philadelphia 76ers, did rest some players. They still want to take down the top overall seed in the Western Conference. I look at that 9-point number, and again, just because you need to win doesn't mean you're going to win. Yes, the Celtics want to win this game, but I look at that 9, and I'm more apt to take the 9 points, knowing that if the Celtics lose, it's not that big of a deal. But if Oklahoma City wins, that's a massive deal in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I mean, now they're trailing Denver a half game because they lost last night. And, of course, Denver ended up beating San Antonio here. But with so many question marks on who's in, who's out, that's the worry part here. But I happen to think that SGA, Jalen Williams, and Jaylen Brown will all be playing in this game. And then I think it will be bombs away here, people. And I think totals in this game are probably, once you get everyone confirmed, I think the total's the easy way to look at this one on both sides.
Let's see where those starting lineups wind up a little bit later today in the afternoon. Who knows if we'll get that roller coaster of injury information coming out, but certainly right now, a strong favorite towards the Boston Celtics. Let's head out to the West Coast tonight. The Cleveland Cavaliers are going to invade Phoenix to take on the Suns. That line opened up overnight with a look-ahead line of -6. That now sits at -5.5, so slightly down. A total that's listed at 226. The Suns and the Cavaliers. I still don't know what to make of the Phoenix Suns here. I love what they're doing with the big three being healthy and playing and sort of trading off. As Durant, you could be special this night. Devin Booker, you could be special this night. Can we trust them enough tonight at home to lay 5.5 points out there in the Valley of the Sun?
Yeah, that's going to be. I tell you what, I do trust is I certainly trust both teams are going to get theirs, right? I do think that Phoenix, this is their first game home. They had a 5-game road trip. They just finished it up with a nice win over New Orleans there. And as long as you have Booker, Beal, and Durant on the court at the same time, you in all likelihood are going to be able to get some points here. Donovan Mitchell was a late scratch last night. I think he'll be playing in this one, which, of course, gives him a little more scoring punch there. Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem laying it with Phoenix, but but I also wouldn't have a problem looking at the over in this one because Phoenix is going to have to shoot their way into some wins here. They're not going to be able to play crazy defense and lock teams down.
You know what I like to do there? You take a look at a guy that scored 50 points in his last game and lit it up from three-point range. He's looking for a repeat of that performance. We'll see what Devin Booker does tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers. 8 o'clock tip tonight, Orlando Magic and the New Orleans Pelicans. Two teams going in different directions technically right now. Back-to-back wins for the Orlando Magic, back-to-back losses for the New Orleans Pelicans. Two teams fighting for seeding, so this game certainly means a lot. Overnight line in this one, Joe. Opened up as a -4 favorite for the New Orleans Pelicans at FanDuel. It currently still sits at a -4 live price, a total extremely low, 208, but that's usually the MO of the Orlando Magic. A great home team and a great cover team. Can they possibly get the road win here tonight against the Pelicans in your mind?
Well, Pelicans better hurry up and get it going. I mean, Brandon Ingram and Alvarado are not going to be back anytime soon here, and they look just absolutely disjointed in that game there against Phoenix here. So the defense has been struggling a little bit here. Orlando certainly likes to bring the defense, and they're a good perimeter defense too as well. So, they're not going to have this opportunity to bomb away. I think it's a rock fight. This is one of those situations where, I wouldn't have a problem going ahead and taking the under in this one, especially since the way the Pelicans were embarrassed in that last game against Phoenix, where they gave up just a ridiculous amount of points there because they let them do whatever they want. I think a little more defense from New Orleans tonight. I'll take the under.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Certainly the Pelicans, one of those talented teams that could do some damage in the Western Conference, but not playing their best basketball right now. We'll see if they turn the corner tonight against the Orlando Magic. An interesting matchup here, which maybe we didn't think would be so interesting. The Los Angeles Lakers, one of the hottest teams in the NBA yesterday, picking up an easy victory over the Toronto Raptors. In that game, as we pointed out, Anthony Davis and LeBron James both played under 30 minutes here. Now it's a back-to-back as we take a look at the team they're playing, the Washington Wizards, who were at home last night waiting on the Los Angeles Lakers and absolutely beat the Milwaukee Bucks. This line comes in as the Lakers another heavy favorite, similar to what we saw yesterday in Toronto at 13 points at the FanDuel Sportsbook and a total of 234. The questions would be to me is, if we didn't see yesterday LeBron James and Anthony Davis playing close to 40 minutes, which they did, they were in the 20s, are they going to play tonight? Because certainly if they're both going to miss this game, that number doesn't indicate it here at a -13.
Yeah, no, and we know Kuzma's out, or at least as of now. Bagley is doubtful. Rashawn Holmes is questionable for Washington. I mean, without Kuzma, how are we getting points here? I would be shocked if one doesn't play. In other words, either AD or LeBron on the second of a back-to-back. One or the other is probably going to rest, which... again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because I like D'Angelo Russell here. When LeBron sits, he's averaging about 11 assists a game in the last 10 in which LeBron wasn't on there. He's really starting to come in his own. He was lights out from three in the game last night here, but he is kind of taking control and been that architect when LeBron's not in. I think if LeBron is ruled out, look at the D'Angelo Russell props in this one. I don't think it's going to be a game. I think the Lakers can beat Washington, especially without Kuzma. But I do think that D'Angelo Russell will be live to back in a lot of spots here in the prop betting market.
Let him get his shots off tonight. We'll see how that one plays out. But also take a look at the Washington Wizards on the season, Joe. 15 total wins. So why would we bring that up? They're nowhere near close to getting into the playoffs. But the question is, they won last night, which now put themselves some distance from the Detroit Pistons, who have 13 wins. There's still some chance for the Washington Wizards to tank and catch the Pistons and get as many ping-pong balls as they possibly can get. So that's an interesting one as it lines up. Do the Wizards actually compete tonight? Because quite frankly, I don't know what was worse last night. Washington picking up a victory to get a 2-game lead on the Detroit Pistons, or the Milwaukee Bucks losing a game straight up to the Wizards last night in a game where Giannis absolutely went off. Doc Rivers one game over 500 since he took the helm as the coach here for the Milwaukee Bucks, which is kind of insane to think about it. But just to flip it over, Joe, from a Los Angeles Lakers perspective, they loved the win last night. Winners of 7 of their past 10 games here. Now with a 1.5 game lead over the Golden State Warriors to stay in that 9th seed, but also in the realm of maybe passing up the Phoenix Suns and the Sacramento Kings as they only sit a game and a half back. This should be an automatic win no matter who plays for the Los Angeles Lakers, but we'll see if it plays out again tonight. As we said, the Lakers, an easy victory yesterday, covering double-digit spreads against Toronto. Let's see if they can also return that favor tonight, taking on the Wizards in the nation's capital. The Indiana Pacers and the Brooklyn Nets. This game is going to tip off at 7:30 p.m. tonight. A 7-point favorite overnight for the Indiana Pacers. We now sit a live number at the FanDuel Sportsbook at 7.5. A total, we always anticipate pace with the Pacers. It's 230.5. Brooklyn basically dead and buried, almost mathematically out of it. The Pacers fighting to stay in the top 6 in the East here.
Yeah, I would anticipate that this line will continue to go up there. The Pacers injury report looks pretty healthy there. The only question is whether Dennis Smith for the Nets is going to go or not go. And Rick Carlisle has been screaming here that they've got to kick it up a notch, certainly on the defensive side, given the fact that Miami just won again last night. So now Miami's only a half a game away from the Indiana Pacers to lock in that number 6 seed, which is a pretty important spot to get because the top 6 are guaranteed. There's no play-in game. Right now, Indiana holds that spot, but they're in for a battle here. I think the intensity will be there. Pacers on the road, not nearly as offensive-minded as they have been at home. I do think that the Pacers at 7, definitely worth a look in this one here because I do think the Nets are, like you said there, dead and buried here at this point.
By the way, one of the good moves that the NBA did make, which at first the players didn't like it themselves, the play-in tournament. You take a look at the Western Conference here. It's so much fun all the way throughout. And even in the Eastern Conference, teams jockeying for positions and other teams included in that. So I do think it made for some really compelling television because if you would have told me, would you rather have the Lakers and the Golden State Warriors in or out of the playoffs? It would be fun to say keep them out because it's LeBron James and Steph Curry. But certainly we'll be watching with both of those teams certainly on the cusp of making it in. Let me ask you this one question because it came up yesterday. The Toronto Raptors here are just spiraling out of control as we go. The Minnesota Timberwolves also playing yesterday, so back-to-backs on both sides. The Timberwolves are favored by 16 points against the Toronto Raptors. So my question to you, Joe Ranieri, is it the same thought process of yesterday as, I don't care what the number is, we're never taking the Raptors. Does that apply to 16 points tonight?
Yeah, so, that's the end of the ball. The big question here is going to be are we getting anybody taking a day off here for Minnesota, right? They are home, which is nice, and I am seeing nothing crazy on there. But you always got to worry about Edwards taking a break, right? Naz Reid has done a great job, we talked about, coming in there. And Toronto, everybody is still hurt and out there, although they did get Barrett back and Quigley. As crazy as it may seem, it would be a team total under for Toronto Raptors for me if everyone's playing with Minnesota. I don't think they get to 100 points.
Yeah, back-to-backs here. We know Minnesota plays very good defense. That total opened up at 215.5 and now sits at 214.5 as we wait to see who's actually in those starting lineups there. Now, we got one more segment to go here on the early line for a Wednesday morning. We like to give you best bets. And if you follow through on the advice that we gave yesterday, it was a 2-0 as we look for another 2-0 today. Stay tuned. Best bets coming up next.
So I'm not sure Alabama is the team to knock them off from this second consecutive national championship chase. But what will be the key for the Crimson Tide if they can even cover a number?
That wing ball screen action, how you defend that is going to be a problem because Donovan Clingan forces you to change so much what you do defensively if he's able to score inside.
Only on SportsGrid.
Talk all you want about how fat he is. No one can guard him. No one can stop him. He's a violent offender. He does whatever he wants in the low block and at the 10. He just does whatever he wants. and scores at will ad nauseum.
They're the Mike Tyson of college basketball. At some point, they're going to throw a haymaker. And when it connects, Pharrell, you're not getting up.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. The early line.
Magical and historic season in Lincoln, Nebraska continues.
He is the best player in the NBA, but also in the biggest moments where the national media is watching.
Newswire.
Something that we have never seen happen before with one of the iconic coaches in the game.
Pharrell Coast to Coast.
The team covers. It's automatic. It's every time. Not sometimes. It's every time.
Game time decisions.
Luka is actually far more dangerous from three on the road this year than at home.
This game here tonight, you may want to consider taking as many points as humanly possible.
In-game live, prime time.
We got not one, but two coaches fired systems in place.
Sports Rage
This
Late
sort
Night.
of has letdown written all over it. It's going to be hard to match the emotion that they played with the other night.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. I mean, best bets, we'll get to them if we can squeeze it in right now. But when when the hottest topics jump off the early line of the SportsGrid Network, have to provide the people with that information. So let me bring you into the equation here, Joe Ranieri. Just popping up right now from Adam Schefter, blockbuster trade. The Bills are finalizing a trade to send four-time Pro Bowler Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans for draft pick compensation. I don't know what that compensation is going to be, but two things come to my head right away. Watch out for the Houston Texans, but also, are we getting the same Stephon Diggs that we saw like 2 or 3 years ago, or the one last year that disappeared late in the season with a great quarterback? But nonetheless, the Houston Texans, Joe, making big moves out here right now.
So you're telling me the Bills just sent Stephon Diggs to Houston for draft consideration down the road? Is that what you're telling me? They got unbelievable.
What did they get, a fifth?
Yeah.
A fourth, a third?
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't sound good right now for the Bills, does it?
But bye-bye, Stephon Diggs. Bye-bye. You can go throw your tantrums and blow up that locker room in Houston. Let me know how that works out for you there. I mean, and that's clearly what the issue is. The malcontents are starting to get shipped out here in a lot of teams in the NFL, but draft consideration is a fantastic thing for one of the top 10 receivers in the league, Donnie. Wow.
Yeah,
there you go.
Usually
Bills.
that story breaks, and it's like, hey, they just traded him for 2 number ones, right? Right off the top. So when Adam Schefter knows the story and goes, it's going to be for draft pick compensation, that's a tough scene.
Wow.
So that means you didn't get a haul back for Stephon Diggs when you thought you would have. By the way, best bets real quick for me tonight. Boston Red Sox money line -158 against Oakland. What is yours tonight, Joe? What do you got?
Yeah, I am going to go with the Arizona Diamondbacks in the first 5. I think Merrill Kelly gets the better of Rodon there, and they'll have the lead going into the latter half of the 6th inning.
Lead story tomorrow morning, no doubt about on the early lines. Got to be something to do with the Bills trading of Stephon Diggs down to the Texans. Absolutely outrageousness. It always pops off in the NFL. Oh, it's great that we can bring this information to people live. That'll do it for the show. Joe Ranieri, Donnie Rightside. Another edition of the early line is over. But guess what? We'll be back to do it again tomorrow. See you then.